From Wyoming's news leader, this is your K2 10 o'clock news.
Good evening, I'm Eric Gardner.
And I'm Robert Geha. Thanks for joining us tonight. Well, after all these years of Olympic history, Eric...
Robert Geha is a legendary Wyoming news anchor with one of the longest careers in Wyoming television history. Whether you're from Casper or Cheyenne, you associate the 10 o'clock news with the great Bob Geha. Bob originally thought he may want to have a career in economics or business. He graduated from Ferris State University in Big Rapids, Michigan, with a Bachelor of Science degree in Business Administration and a minor in economics. After graduation, he worked at a stock brokerage firm, Davis, Rowandy, and Nichols. This was Bob's first taste of stock trading and his love for the markets.
Report with a huge rally taking the Dow and the S&P 500 to new all-time highs.
In the late 1970s, Bob moved to San Diego. He co-owned Bobby G's restaurant and nightclub in Encinitas, California. After he sold it in 1987, he went to San Diego State University and earned a second major in broadcast journalism. Bob didn't start his career as an anchor. He paid his dues. Like all beginning broadcasters, he was a field intern in San Diego, covering wildfires, natural gas explosions, and much more. He was also assigned to many field assignments, including interviewing the late Tony Gwynn of the San Diego Padres. In 1989, the late Wes Sturr, news director at K2, hired Bob as a general assignment reporter. In 1990, he did morning cut-ins on TV and radio. In 1992, he moved to weekend anchor and producer for K2.
Well, most of you know that you can buy almost, maybe you don't know, anything online.
Well, you don't even have to leave your house anymore, practically.
Right.
Bob worked with the K2 greats like Wes Sturr, Charles Brown, Susan Anderson, Frank Gambino, George Kay, and the late Rich Berkhamshaw, Eric Gardner, and many others. In the summer of 1995, Bob left K2 to hang out with his Aunt Helen, the legendary White House reporter. Helen Thomas was the first woman in the press corps in the White House. While in D.C., he had the opportunity to do freelance writing and field producing for CNN and CNN International. One of the perks of having the famous Aunt Helen and being in D.C., Bob attended many White House briefings and even the White House Christmas party with President and Mrs. Clinton, as well as a state dinner. During these events, he had an opportunity to sit with the actor Nicolas Cage, Apple's Steve Jobs, and ESPN's Chris Berman, who, by the way, was very knowledgeable about K2 TV. When Bob returned to K2 in 1996, he moved to the capital city to work on the Cheyenne K2 branch. Not too long after that, Bob received a call from KGWN-TV in Cheyenne. They were looking for a co-anchor and executive producer for their 5:30 and 10 p.m. newscasts. Bob visited the station and shot a screen test with anchor and health reporter Lori Farkas.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Lori Farkas.
And I'm Robert Geha. Thanks for joining us tonight. Republican candidate for governor Eli Bebout is blasting those Dumas ads at the Wyoming Department of Transportation. Which camera are we on? That one? Okay, Wyoming Department of
Bob and Lori made a great team, and he was hired shortly thereafter. While at KGWN, Bob became the face of the Wyoming legislature while they were in session, reporting all the news from the state capitol and interviewing legislators on important Wyoming bills.
Governor Meade hit on a number of areas in his fourth State of the State address, including what he calls Wyoming's strong economy, health care, the environment, as well as highlights from his $3.3 billion budget.
He also brought a unique live guest element to the 10 p.m. newscasts at KGWN, featuring state and local leaders talking about the important issues in the news. The shows and stories Bob produced were award-winning, and he always kept the focus on being fair and getting the facts. It was also during this time at KGWN that Bob's personal life became complete, when he met and married the love of his life, Michelle Hankins. Bob was not only a legendary main anchor and executive producer, he was a friend and mentor to everyone in the newsroom. He was never too busy to go over scripts with young reporters, look at tapes and give editing advice, or provide insight to find the right person to interview for a story. Bob is known for his vast institutional knowledge of Wyoming news. He is literally a walking encyclopedia of election results, trivia, news stories, and he can tell you all the details of anyone he's ever interviewed. In 2015, Bob decided, after more than 26 years in the TV business, that it was time to retire and enjoy his life with Michelle and their fur babies, Sophie, Dexter, Chester, Atticus, and Sadie. Robert Geha is a shining example of a great career, and he exemplifies the true standards of what journalism is all about.